Hello, welcome to episode 24 of Let the Story Write Itself podcast. This podcast is all about letting the story write itself, hence the name. What that really means is surrendering that sense of control, surrendering that sense that you have to make things happen. And it's like integrating all parts of yourself. So, heart, mind, spirit. Sometimes people compartmentalize, they are more in their heads, or maybe they're not using their heads enough. It's it's not like separate, right? Your brain, your heart, they all operate in tandem. And I would say, Einstein has a quote that we've honored the mind that is meant to be the faithful servant, intuition, something along those lines. I've paraphrased it, but it's really touching on the point that your intuitive mind, the the part of you that is not necessarily from your logical mind, is like the larger part of you that knows more. It's the spiritual side of you. And this is the part that sometimes I think, especially if you go through like a traditional school system and such, you're operating a lot more from your mind state, from a logical like this and that, and it's very one-dimensional. And a lot of times, there's compartmentalizations. You have a dedicated time for a gym class, and other times you're just sitting and being passively lectured to or something, or there's a specific time for an art class or a computer class or whatever you're doing. So it's all very compartmentalized, right? How often does everything just get inter it's like interconnected, which is essentially who you are. This is the whole point. Like when my story started, it really started when I was 17, and I was just on the brink of going to university. I was at the orientation, and I heard a voice tell me go travel. And inwardly I was like feeling like good grief. Like I feel like it's like a jail right now. Like I was not feeling excited. I was not feeling at peace. I was not feeling like this is where I'm meant to be. Um, you know, I I had a very strong sensation like within my body. It was like my bodily wisdom telling me this. And but my head was kind of telling me other things like, oh, well, just go, just do that, like all the excuses, right? So essentially, this is where had I just listened to that intuition and just, been like, this isn't right for me, my body's telling me, like tuning into that language of your body and being able to understand what it means and respond and almost making that like I'm sure there are people who are able to do this. Maybe they grew up like being able to just, or like, in some way they didn't have all that confusion around like, should I go to university? Should I not? And they were really very in tune with their own voices from the get-go. And if so, that is awesome. For me, even though I feel like I'm a very intuitive person, and that's why I knew exactly what my body was feeling, I was also kind of in a way like curious. I was like, well, what if? And so there was an element of like, well, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Well, what's the worst that could happen is that I end up in university for like all those years without actually being in that sense of flow, in that sense of in my own intuitive power. And why this is so important, I've come to realize, is not because it's not just like, oh, well, so what? I mean, you still got a degree with it. Like, no, that is not the point at all. Like, in this one precious life, you have like one life. It's like, why would you do anything that is less than, there are innumerable options in the world. Like, there are like innumerable, like infinite things that you could be doing at any one time. It's not just this or that. But it's so interesting how it's like, a lot of times the focus is so narrow. It's like, okay, well, this is what you do. This is what most people are doing, when there's actually so many infinite possibilities of what people could be doing. So it's interesting how often we put ourselves into a box and we don't even allow our intuitive self to direct us to what we may not know, to that unknown, to that sense of curiosity and just exploration and discovery. Essentially, this is where new ideas come in. This is where you become more of a creator than simply a passive consumer. And this is where the abundance and the joy of life, this is where you really come alive and feel more of that vibrancy of life. Really, really, even though like, there were, it was like, it's not like there was nothing good about university. But at the same time, just because it's not good doesn't mean that it was not bad. Like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to say, like, it was just kind of like a meh. Like, for the most part, I always felt like I was not at peace being there. Like, I always felt like this sense of underlying, like, restlessness. Like, I'm not in the right place right now. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. And that's like God telling you. That's like God calling you and putting that intuitive direction. Like, yeah, that's right. You're not where you're supposed to be. And I'd like come to realize that, where I would start really tuning in and be like, what would feel good right now? What am I called to? What am I pulled to? Like, instinctively. And operating more from that mind, like that flow state, rather than mental, like, neck above, kind of just like all in your mind, like that very cut off, cold kind of analytical approach. And as a female and also someone who's actually very connected to my intuition and very heart led in a sense, like I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I have no problem expressing my emotions. And, whether it be anger, sadness, or fear, like I'm very, very expressive. I'm very, very vocal. And I've always been, even as a child. So this is like not an anomaly. Like I'm very, very animated and very expressive. But it's so interesting how I put myself into that box, and that's why I was feeling so uncomfortable, because I'm not used to being in that box. I'm always like, I'm very aware of what I feel at any given time. So it was not so much that I was not feeling my intuition, so I just made that decision. And that's where this idea of distress came in, because I could feel the constriction in my body from that decision of going to university, of just being there, essentially, of going through that activity. And like, it was not in alignment with me. And like, my emotions were like my own feelings. I was like, oh gosh, it just doesn't feel right. And that is like the the part where your mind can sometimes try to your mind often is not operating from the sense of truth. It's operating from a place, like, this is why that saying that the mind is a servant and your intuitive self is the leader, essentially, is because your mind is not made to be the one creating possibilities, because it's not actually made to function in that way. Your mind is meant to implement. It's kind of like the how to. So just say you get a directive from your soul. This is actually the true calling, because this is the function of the soul. It's the inner compass. It's meant to guide you. It's your blueprint. And then your mind is kind of like it's your intelligence, right? It's like telling you, if you get a directive, okay, do this, do that. That's how you direct your human self to do the thing that you're pulled to by intuition. And once you just get this simple process correct in your mind, like once you have this in order, actually everything aligns, because you're like, yeah, okay, my soul decides. My soul is the one that pulls me to the thing. And it's that feeling that I get, that intuitive idea, that actually leads me to the truth of who I am and what I'm called to. And there's like a spirituality to it. It's like not even in a religious sense, but just like this feeling of like God's word. Okay. I like to call it God's word, because I'm not just talking about like the word in the Bible. I'm talking about like in practical everyday life. What is God's word? What is God wanting to fulfill right now? And you're like a piece of that. You're like here to fulfill. As a human self, you have that power to move and act accordingly, in accordance with that higher guidance. I think that's so beautiful, because then you become a part of a bigger picture, and you feel the sense of like interconnectedness, and your life suddenly has greater purpose. Like everything just kind of becomes easier, aligns, feels more feels more abundant in many ways. And this is where you really integrate your whole body. You're more attuned to your heart mind integration, essentially. And your vibration changes. Like you become more of a whole, complete person, and you feel more fulfilled. And your natural state, you might even start to glow, radiate. You just look different. You just sound different. You come across different. Like you have a certain softness and gentleness about you, because it's almost like a more feminine approach. You're not so hard edged and cold and like judgy. You're not just like robotic. Essentially, you're more human. You're literally allowing your spirit to to be the to be at the forefront. And you realize, there's that saying that you're a spiritual being in a human body. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, and that's the whole point of it. And that's where you become bigger than who you currently are. That's how you almost like escape the conditions. You get bigger than the conditions because you realize that you're outside of any constructs that are man-made and arbitrary, essentially, that don't actually hold any water. So you actually see the truth. You see clearly, you cut through the crap, you just get to the truth. You get to the heart of the matter, essentially, right? So I wanted to also pull this back to, now I'm telling about the story, and then I'm like in Malaga, I'm like in Spain, and I've just been hopping around and following my intuition. And it's the idea that, you know, if you have this core belief that like your intuition leads, this is where that alignment happened for me, where I'm like, I stopped operating from this idea that like I needed to figure it out logically or analytically or based on what, I thought. Like I was like moving from my mind to my heart, to my body. And actually that's what Vipassana led me to. That's what Vipassana helped me do a lot because in that 10-day sitting where I was just sitting for like 10 days, like literally meditating like 10 hours a day, essentially based on the schedule, like waking up at like 4 a.m. and then like going all the way until like 9 p.m. at night, like just literally meditating the whole day, other than like meals and breaks here and there. And you're just in silence the whole time, no talking, no books, no phone, no nothing. Like you're inoculated from the outside world. It's a very simple, like bare bones kind of setting and like just the essentials and like there's just no just the minimum of distractions essentially and you're meditating like the whole time. That is some intense retreat. Okay, that is some kind of intense, and that is actually like I was like pulled to that. Okay, that was actually what I was seeking. So I've always been like a bit of a seeker, and I was like pulled to it, and then I got it. I was like, oh, I like kind of manifested it in this, like if you want to use that word, like I drew it to me. I was like, I literally drew it. If you go back to my first episode of this podcast, how I was led to 10-day Vipassana retreat, and literally how I talk about how I was led to that retreat in the first place. Like I never even knew what Vipassana was. So anyway, it was really that experience, like the experience of it, like as you're not just talking about it, not just like intellectualizing it, not just like, either you can talk about it all day long and understand in your mind, but are you doing it? Are you experiencing it? Are you actually in your body, like integrating? Are you actually like in your body being it? That's the difference. Are you embodying that? And that's what the retreat, the in-person physical retreat, that 10-day Vipassana that I traveled to. I went to a place in Montebello to do this retreat for 10 days. And that's where I went from my head to and grounded myself more in my body. And that's how I started being more in tune and, not just knowing how I felt, but actually being able to feel more able to trust that, or what was it? Trust, like almost like operate from that feeling of being so grounded within myself. I think part of that was like the silence of the 10 days, the silence of being silent for freaking 10 days, even in the midst of people around you. It really anchors in the sense of like inward, what do you call it? Just an inward type of introspection. um, and you really begin to like you do see the in fact the truth of what is like. I really credit this experience with being able to take me from my mind, my brain, and like all those like all that overthinking and like all those that jumble of thoughts always going on in the mind. And it's called like the monkey mind in a very cliche way, but it really is just like all that jumble of thoughts that were happening and really almost like slowing it down. It's almost like those reels that you sometimes see on like Instagram, and it's like very noisy and it kind of calms down, and they often put like some nature or stillness, a lake or something or forest, and they're like, my mind goes from this to that when they're in nature. For me, that was what Vipassana was like. The first 3 days, I found it so difficult to even just like, my mind was like, I was just like sitting there. I was like trying to do the meditation, but my mind was like all over the place, all over the place. And obviously, like, you just freaking 10 hours in a day. That is a lot like that. Just sitting there for 10 hours, you almost create, like, sometimes people just leave. Some people don't complete it, like, honestly. And once I got over that 3 day, for me, it was like really 3 days, I felt like a clear difference. When I went from after 3 days, suddenly it's like something clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm actually doing the meditation now. I'm not just sitting here like my mind all over the place and I'm like peeking all around, like shuffling and like almost just like thinking of like my mind was not like in like my mind was all over the place. And I'm not even it's something that you experience and not something that you explain. But the fact is that like there's no per se like you don't have to try to control that. It's just kind of like letting it kind of unravel. So, once if you just stay there, if you just continue showing up, if you just put in the practice, even if your mind is like, oh my goodness, you're thinking, am I the only one like sitting here, like not actually doing any the meditation? In fact, my mind going like miles per hour, like, that type of thing where you just feel like, oh, I'm not doing it right. And you have all these thoughts going through your head, and you're like, oh, I just want to get up and leave now. Or, oh, it's probably such a like, you're literally just inside in like a darkened room for like 10 hours a day. So in some ironic fashion, it feels a bit like being in jail. But when you are able to just push past that and you unlock that true freedom, that's suddenly where you suddenly go past all of the chatter and the mind noise and the thoughts, and you really settle into some kind of like a deeper presence. And that's essentially what happened for me. And that's why by like the fourth day, I was much more like available in a sense. I'm a lot more present. I was like, oh, I'm in this now. Like I'm getting it in a sense. Like something just clicked for me. Like I don't feel like I'm wanting to like I need to like shuffle as much or peek around at what everyone else is doing, or like my mind is like for some reason I'm trying to do the meditation, but my mind is like going off on all sorts of tangents, or I'm like in the past and then I'm in the future and then I'm like anywhere but here. And suddenly I kind of really grounded myself and I became a lot more present in the moment. And this is something that you feel, you experience, you just be, you are, you do. You're not talking about it, you're not thinking about it, you can't like intellectualize it, you can't be like trying to figure it out. You actually just have to, it's like when you learn if you're going to swim, you can't just talk about swimming, you have to just do it. That's the kind of thing. It's like a very kinesthetic, like bodily thing. That's why you have to do it in person and you have to experience it for yourself. But essentially, this was in like 2012. And so then, it started like your once your thoughts kind of change, or just your way of being, you naturally then start to operate in the world in a different way. I started being more independent, like not independent, but like in a sense, like I went from job hopping and different employment to being like more into like freelance work, and even did door-to-door sales. Like I kind of became a little more, a bit more outside of the matrix, outside of the box, became a little bit more self-led and a bit like that confidence, like the fact that I was drawn to door-to-door sales instead of like more passive types of employment was a big, like I would say a big factor in that change. I just became a lot more like open and like needing that freedom and needing that sense of sovereignty and autonomy and that internal state of being essentially that I had unlocked at this point. And and then obviously some I then am like led to I go into the life coaching. I've said this in many other episodes. And then it's like 2016 now, January. And this is almost a decade now since I was 17 and just about to go to university in the first place, when I had not necessarily been my bodily wisdom and made that decision from that place in the first place. And it took me on this whole journey into like Vipassana, and then uncovering more of that soul led purpose and calling and moving with intuition. And then come full circle, I get a call like go to Toronto. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like an opportunity for redemption kind of thing. Like reclaim who you really are. And it's like, are you going to do the thing now? Are you going to do it? Are you going to show that you've actually learned that you are a new person now? And you know what? I was, because at this time I was like, I understood the assignment. I was like, oh my goodness, you know what? This is the thing. Like, there's no other point in life. Like, what is there? Like, your soul has come here to experience life, and your soul is the one that is like it's like the compass. It's like the blueprint. So why would I not listen to that directive? It's like once you get your mind in order, once you almost like realize that your mind is like your mind is the employee, okay? Let me just put it that way. Like, don't let it be the boss. It's like you need to be the boss. You need to let your soul be the boss. And you're like, okay, listen, mind, we are doing this. So it's really just that flipping it on its head, right? And so I was like, yeah, well, okay. Well, once you make that decision within and you just have that internal knowing, and that's what that grounding in yourself is, just that deep sense, that deep presence, and being so grounded in yourself and secure and like rooted and safe and knowing and trusting and faithful and just that act of surrender. I it's like I knew that I was essentially going to I was going to do the thing. I was like, yeah. So then I did the directive and I allowed my mind to follow and to do all those things. And I went to Toronto, and then that led me to Malaga, or that led me to Barcelona, and then that led me to Malaga. And, it then led me to Morocco and onwards, so forth. And I just became so practiced in this state of being, of simply allowing my intuition to lead and my mind to follow. And that is really the premise of how you become aligned, how you become more intuitive and like led by your soul rather than, allowing your mind to hijack, essentially, like put your mind where it belongs as the servant to your intuition. So that is episode 24 of Let the Story Write Itself.